All right, everyone, welcome back into our second hour of our missions conference today. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you one of the pastors of Westview Baptist Church, Reese Green. Reese serves a double role as worship leader and the leader of our mission engagement locally and globally. I think there's something really important about how those two roles actually fit together, that worship moves us to mission and mission moves us to worship. The two are connected. So I'm going to invite Reese to come on and take it from here. Welcome, Reese.
Thanks, Barrett. Good morning. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you all again for joining us this morning. I want to personally thank you for joining us in our conference today. Let me just share briefly about what we've done locally here in this year and in the year coming. Westview has partnered with a community organization in our immediate community for a number of years in one way or another. But as soon as COVID hit 11 months ago, our staff felt that food shortage would be probably an immediate issue for the low-income housing that surrounds our church within a 2 or 3 minute walk from our front door. So we had our community organization collect requests for food hampers. And then we asked our congregation to bring food to the church twice a week. And beginning in April 1st, we then assembled a team that would wash the food, package it up and sort it into hampers that served the size of each family that had requested food assistance. Then we delivered the hampers to their homes the same day. So by the end of the summer, we had processed and delivered more than 100 hampers. And I'm sure, and I hope that it was a blessing to those homes around us. I know from many comments that it was, but also it was a blessing for our team to be able to do that. And they were very enthusiastic about that. So now we're going to transition this year very soon to become a satellite distribution center for the Calgary Food Bank. And we will be the only one of these locations in the northwest quadrant of the city. So that covers about 250,000 people. To go from our community, from our church, all the way down to the main food bank distribution center, which they call Central, but it's really in the southeast, is about 40 kilometers away. And some of our clients around us don't have transportation. They don't have a car. So they would have to get somebody to drive them, or they'd have to take transit there and back, which I can't imagine how long that would take, to collect their food hampers. So now we will open up just a small part of our church building and assemble a new team, and the clients will be able to come directly to the church to pick up their hampers. So this starts in about just a little less than 2 weeks. And we'll start small by just serving 10 or 12 hampers until we kind of get our rhythm, and then we can grow from there. Last year, the Calgary Food Bank distributed over 100,000 food hampers, and that represents probably affecting, at least 200,000 people, if not more, in Calgary. So it is a pretty substantial need in this city. And we're just excited to be able to serve in that way, to serve those who are just really struggling to put food on the table. And so we're looking forward to this new ministry opportunity this year, and we'll see how it goes and hope to report back to you. And thanks for your time today. Let me pass it off to Dennis and Gordon, and they will explain and introduce the food bank to you this morning.
Thanks very much, Reese. I think for many of us, we've understood that hunger is global and it's local. It affects our community and it affects communities around the world. One of the moving experiences of the past years was to visit just outside of Hyderabad, India, a drylands agriculture research and training center. Sounds like a big government operation, doesn't it? No, it wasn't. It was work done by Christians in Baptist churches in India and a Baptist church in Kitchener, Ontario. And it exemplified that Christians are concerned about hunger and not just delivering food, but sometimes helping farmers grow food, sometimes under adverse and changing circumstances. I've been asked to just quickly introduce Canadian Food Grains Bank. Canadian Food Grains Bank is listed as one of the top 10 charities in Canada. It's exceptionally well run. It is concerned with both food aid and food production, crop production around the world, works internationally. I was on the board of Food Grains Bank for 6-7 years. That's one thing. But the heart of the Food Grains Bank is in countries like Rwanda, India, Democratic Republic of Congo, where crops are grown, where, as Jennifer said, hunger is at its highest level among rural people. The other heart of the Food Grains Bank is where farmers in Canada grow crops and give them to the Food Grains Bank, that sell them, and the money goes to the Food Grains Bank, where the government of Canada offers matching funds, and sometimes as high as 4-to-1. We have growing projects in Brownfield, Alberta, in High River, Alberta, and in Moosomin, Saskatchewan, supported by a network of urban churches. Guys like Byron Richardson, Clayton Richardson, like Jason Weber, who are on today. These guys are real heroes, and these are guys that show what our Lord Jesus called steadfast endurance. They hang in good times and bad times to care about offering a witness in word and deed to people who are pushed into hunger. Dennis, over to you.
Thanks, Gord. This cycle of hunger and the conflict, it's so hard to break. And we hear the reports even today and some of that's going on, not only in Canada, but around the world. And, it seems like we're going backwards around this cycle of hunger and food security. One of the things that we'd like to do now is to give a little bit of hope. Some good things are happening. Food security has been with us a long time, and it is around the world, but there's a response taking place by the local church and the global church, and the desire is to work together to bring a resolution and a response to this issue that's growing and getting worse. I will tell you, one of the privileges I have is being a part of what is happening here locally by our Canadian churches and partners, and then how that transplants globally into helping to alleviate this issue of the food crisis and poverty. We've asked 3 of our brothers from Brownfield. Gordon mentioned that we have these other projects in High River and in Moosomin, which are very similar, but want to bring these 3 gentlemen in. Byron Richardson, who's been involved in Canadian Food Grains and food security at a local level as a farmer in Coronation Brownfield, and Jeremy Cole and Jordan Weber as well, who were very instrumental in the GROW project there in making a difference, in providing funds that are matched, as Gordon said, and making a difference. I've asked each of them to share a specific question. We could spend a lot of time on this, but briefly, Jordan or Byron, we'll go with you first. Rich, huge, long history as a project and a GROW project. Can you just give us a short synopsis of how that started and where you're at today?
I thought to accurately talk about the history, and I have 3 minutes to do it, which is going to be quite amusing. I brought some history along. This is my father, Clayton, and he was the first serving director for Canadian Baptists at Food Grains Table in 1983. So kind of fun to be here with him today. I was thinking about 3 minutes, what actually do I talk about? And I wanted to just say, I think the real history, 1972 Ethiopian famine, 1974 Bangladesh famine, 1975 Khmer Rouge went crazy in Cambodia. 500,000 people died of starvation from 75 to 79. 1982, the Mozambique Civil War with a massive famine. 1983 to 85, the Ethiopian crisis. And at the very same time, 84 to 85, Somalia, drought, civil war, massive famine, huge loss of life. 91 to 92, the Somali civil war and drought, massive famine. And I just remember as a kid growing up and seeing these things on the news and just being like depressed about, wow, the world is terrible. And 2 decades of misery. Well, the Mennonites, Canadian Mennonites in 1975 went, hey, we could do something about this. And they thought, we grow grain, we've got grain, we should do something as Canadian Christians who are farmers. And so in 1975, they formed the Mennonite Food Bank. And they, for numerous years, gave substantial gifts from the Mennonite community of grain to these specific areas. And in 1983, 4 other church denominations went, hey, this is an awesome thing. We need to be part of this. And the Baptists were one of them. And in 1983, the Canadian Food Grains Bank was started. And kudos to the Mennonites. They were willing to step back from the Mennonite Food Bank and let that die. And then the Canadian Food Grains Bank was born in 1983, so 37 years ago. And we had the privilege as a denomination to be there in the opening bell. But the history of that, there was the Mennonites, Baptist, Lutheran, Christian Reform, and Christian Missionary Alliance, the original 5. And today there's 15 members. And all of the 30 Christian denominations are at the table. It's amazing. Our history, when I think about our history, I think about a denominational history, I think about a family history, and I think about a church history. Our family's been, it's been a big part of our lives to have a outlet for the responsibility to what do we do as Christians? What's a Christian response to hunger? And this has been a tremendous opportunity to actually plug in as a family through generations and be a part of it. Dad, for example, sitting beside me here, has served as a donor. He served as a member, a director at CFGB on CBM's behalf. And he served in the field through Baptist Volunteers. In 1991, was in the East Province in Kenya with a huge amount of Somali refugees and at a feeding station, him and mom. And they had a bar across the door. If a kid could walk in without hitting his head, he could come in and eat. It was devastating times. And I don't have time to tell you any more beyond that. I think I'm over my time right now. But there's so much to say, but we love food grains, and God has been good to this organization. And we have the respect of the Canadian government in ways that very few have. And
Thanks,
so,
thanks, Byron. I appreciate that and capturing a little bit of the history and the involvement. I'm going to ask Jen and Nicole to share a little bit about the commitment that each farmer might have. Very briefly share that, but give you a little teaser. It isn't just the farmer that makes an investment. One of the unique partnerships that we have is the local church and the urban church and the rural church coming together. And Jordan's going to share a little bit about that kind of partnership that takes place, not only in Brownfield, but in all the other projects as well. But Jaron, Cole, would you mind just sharing briefly, very quickly, the commitment that a farmer needs to make to a project like yours?
You bet. Well, great to see you, Dennis, and great to be a part of this. Basically, as a farmer, what our role is at the beginning of the year, we pledge a portion of our farm to this project, a portion of acres to this project. And then we treat it like the rest of our farm. So to just quickly walk you through what that looks like, this time of year, we're getting ready to go for spring. We're getting logistics and inputs and all of that fun stuff ready to go. The end of April, beginning of May is when we start seeding, when we start putting the seeds in the ground to start the whole thing off. then they begin to grow. And as we move into June and July, then we're responsible for things like weed control and pest management and those kind of things to make sure that the crop is growing properly and well. As we move into August, we get ready for harvest, which is the most exciting part of the cropping cycle. It's getting equipment ready, it's getting logistics ready to go. But it's also a terrifying time of year because there are so many things that can impact our crops, whether it's weather, a hailstorm, or disease, or grasshoppers and other insects coming in and taking out the crop. So it's always that moment where we're almost there, but there are many things that could still knock us back. In September is when we start harvesting. We pull into the fields and that grain starts coming into the combine, and there's nothing better than watching that happen. Once harvest is done, generally in October, that grain is then, it's put in bins on farm and then transported to local elevators where it's sold. And then we take the proceeds from those designated acres, and that's what we give to the Food Grains Bank project. And that's the general role as a farmer. But, and Jordan's going to speak to this in just a moment, so I don't want to steal his thunder, but really thank you so much for all the support that you give us, because what it does is it takes care of the inputs, which is a very expensive part of growing a crop. And when you take care of those inputs for us, it allows us to do what we do best, make the best decisions we can, and be confident in trying to grow as much grain to create as much food or money that would go to food to help feed hungry people. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. One clarification, if I may, when those funds go to Canadian Food Grains, of course, they're matched to a certain amount, but then CBM is allocated those funds for ministry and for alleviating through programs in our partnerships around the world. So thanks for that. Jordan, real quick, the importance of those partnerships. You have a unique partnership with Lauren Park in Mississauga, Ontario, and with Westview, the church that's hosting this conference. It's not unlike High River or even Moosomin, Saskatchewan. They work similarly, but those partnerships are very, very important. And just quickly explain that.
Well, Dennis, when you asked me why they were important, I just kept coming back to Hebrews 10 in my mind, where it says, "And let us consider how we may spur one another on to love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." And to us out here on the farm, spurs were what Grandpa used to make his horse go faster. And there has been many times over the last 15 years, I think it is 15 years where we've been in these partnerships. I'd have to have fact checking on that, but that's what my wife told me. And where we really need spurring on, and we really needed a faithful partner and certainly encouragement. And having partners like Westview and Lauren Park cheering on the project and being so faithful has been so important. It has really been incredible, and it has been crucial. I think also to the fact that we are all on a mission, the mission of Christ to bring the gospel to the ends of the earth. And as we've heard today, in many places around the world, both locally and internationally, the most appropriate way we can carry the gospel in some places in the world is by serving people in need. And often right now that is with food. And so to me, it's been so important for us to have partners like Westview and Lauren Park, because we're on a team together where we're leveraging significant resources as we work together as a team that are driving the mission of Christ forward into the world through word and deed. I believe CFGB is an important tool. It all works together, but as a Baptist family, CBM is an incredible jewel that has been given to our church family through the generations, and it meaningfully extends our tangible mission, whereas churches and church communities, we put one foot in front of the other towards the ends of the earth, and I'm very, very blessed to be a part of it. It's thrilling to us to be with Westview and Lauren Park in this journey, and the commitment of all of you, I know lots of you are on this call, really does humble us. And so like Jeremy said, we want to say a huge thank you Lots of you are obviously committed to ending hunger. Thank you to your churches for spurring us on, your faithfulness when we've needed it most. And you are more than partners to us. You are brothers and sisters on this journey. And that is the most important thing I can say about what's made this project work over the years, Dennis. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Jordan, and thanks, Jeremy and Byron, and again for that partnership and sharing the uniqueness of that. Our goal is to seek out some wonderful things that God is doing through partnership, and I think that's an example of what's happening. Impact is important, and I just want to put a little plug in. CBM is bringing out this newsletter. It'll be available in February. This is the first time we've actually shown it publicly. It's not quite finished yet, but it'll be in your mailboxes very soon in February, and it's about the response and the responding through stories and through statistics and what is happening through things like food grains and the farmers and how it's impacting many, many different people around the world. Really quickly, one thing I'd like to highlight for you is the fact that more than 63,000 people last year, this is encouraging, have been impacted through food assistance programs. Not just the COVID program, which is helping food, bring food to people, but 63,000 people through partnership, and that's unique. And it isn't just food, but it's training, bringing classes, bringing seeds and different things. And I know that the Rwanda team that went from Westview will know these pictures and the stories that you heard. Some of those stories will be in that magazine. Watch for it. The other area that's very exciting is the farmers that are producing and helping with animals, but particularly cattle. And we have a number of farmers that are saying, hey, I'm going to donate a cow and sell that through Canadian Food Grains, and making a difference, not only for food here in Alberta or in Canada and raising that cow so they can sell it, but allowing someone overseas to be able to raise a cow, purchase a cow with those funds and feed their family. These are encouragements to us in terms of what's happening through these kinds of programs and through these kinds of partnerships. Be encouraged. There are ways to be involved and support Canadian Food Grains for CBM, supporting acreages or an acre, and supporting cattle as well. Just a really brief way of encouraging you.
Looking at those pictures of Rwanda reminds me of the impact of COVID-19 on my hair, which was it was a lot shorter when I went to Rwanda, and you could actually go out and get a haircut. Thanks, Jeremy, Jordan, and Byron for sharing some stories of hope. I like Dennis said, visited a Canadian Food Grains Bank food security project when we were in Rwanda, and it was a very moving experience. And I was particularly impacted just by being on the ground and visually seeing the difference in the crops grown through the efforts of CFGB right next to the fields that were not implementing the agricultural science and the training that was being afforded the local Rwandan farmers. And I was just blown away by the sustainable and systemic difference that the project was making. So it really truly is a story of hope, and it's a privilege that our congregation gets to be a part of it.